The member for Melton.
Thanks, Acting Speaker. And today I rise to contribute to the National Energy Retail Law Victoria Bill 2024, and the National Energy Retail Law Victoria Bill 2024 represents a significant advancement in protecting consumers and bolstering the resilience of Victoria's energy retail market by adopting the National Retailer of Last Resort scheme. Of course, the bill aims to safeguard consumers' interests and in the face of a dynamic and sometimes challenging energy landscape, and I'm pleased that the Coalition will not be opposing this bill. I did want to pick up on a couple of things that the member for Ovens Valley just stated in his contribution, and he said that they were the right projects in the wrong place. And I just wonder if those opposite are being honest with their constituents about them even suggesting nuclear energy and looking at nuclear energy, and it should be part of the process. And I'm just wondering whether the Leader of the Opposition would rule out building nuclear reactors in the backyards of Victorians, and if not, would he be happy to have them in his electorate or in the electorate of Ovens Valley or in other opposition electorates, and whether they've been honest with our community members in regard to nuclear energy. And we know before the election last year that anonymously there were 4 Coalition MPs that spoke to the Age around about the 12th of June last year, indicating their support for nuclear energy to be included in Australia's future energy mix. And we know what the federal opposition leader has stated in regard to nuclear energy, and I think he actually even suggested that he indicated back in September last year that the old Anglesey coal mine might be an appropriate location for a nuclear reactor, and that was written up by the Times. That was in the Times news group, and I'm sure the locals of Anglesey would be very happy with that, let alone the tourists that go down to Anglesey. They'd be very happy with things glowing at night, and you wouldn't have to get a suntan in Anglesey in the future. You could just glow by being close to a nuclear reactor. How would that look in your Speedos? Send Tony Abbott down there in his Speedos. That would be fantastic. But anyway, put that aside, and of course the member in the other place, Miss MacArthur, also stated early last year, in January last year, that nuclear must be considered in our energy mix. And it has been repeatedly called for nuclear power to be introduced into Victoria. And again, I just wonder whether those opposite, while they're supporting this bill, which I'm pleased to say, whether they've been open and honest with constituents around the state about their position on nuclear energy, and whether they'll be coming out and be public about it and be honest with the people. And if they are supportive of nuclear energy, well, tell us about it and tell us where you would position the reactors, let alone where you would dump the waste. And I'm sure not only the people in Anglesey would be up in arms, but in other locations they'll be up in arms. And yeah, come and tell the people of Melton that you think that you're going to have a reactor there and you're going to dump the waste in Melton. Just come and do that. That'll go down really well in Melton. I can assure you it'll go down really well in Melton.
Through the chair, please.
Sorry, Acting Speaker. So, of course, as the Leader of the House mentioned earlier today, I too am very proud of this legislation. It continues our nation-leading reforms, and this state is leading the nation in regard to our commitment to renewables, and we're leading that race. And as the member for Sunbury stated in his contribution, this bill will provide security and safety and fairness for the consumers, which is obviously what we're seeking to do. Of course, if you live in Victoria and you use electricity or gas, then this is important legislation for all Victorians, and the legislation is going to make it so that if your retailer for gas or electricity goes out of business, that Victorians are covered. And this is about not leaving customers in the dark when the power goes out from one particular company or one particular provider. And the energy regulator makes sure that the customer has another provider. So we've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions more than any other Australian state consistently from when the Andrews Labor government was elected back in 2014. And we've increased our 2030 renewable targets by 15% because we've already smashed our targets, and we've brought forward by 5 years our net zero emissions target from 2050 to 2045, which means the target for 2035 for 95% is well within our reach, contrary to what the member for Caulfield was tweeting out some time ago. We've delivered 300,000 solar rebates to households in Victoria to help them reduce their bills and control their energy. And Acting Speaker, this is such a fabulous initiative, and of course it's something that in my family, my wife and I hope to be undertaking very soon when we build a new house within the next 12 months. So there you go. And totally renewable out there in McGee land. Totally renewable. So it'll be quite interesting for an old fellow like me, I can tell you. So if I could get a decent council that would give us a planning permit, then we would be doing okay. Anyway, sorry, Acting Speaker. Of course, the opposition's lead speaker, the member for Brighton, raised issues of transmission and storage, and I know the member for Eureka and myself have been involved in the process with the Western Transmission Network project for some time because our electorates are affected by the suggestion of above-ground transmission wires. And I've got to remind those opposite that there were many members from the opposition that attended public meetings and objected to this transmission project because of it being above ground. But they didn't have any alternatives apart, maybe it should go underground or things like that, but knowing that the costings were enormous. So to suggest from the lead speaker of the opposition that transmission and storage is important, it is. There's no question it is. And it is right around the country. And all states are facing the problem of transmission and storage. But unless we introduce these projects, then that problem will just be continue, and we need to transmit the renewables, and we need to work with the communities and consult with the communities and work through these problems. And I've attended many meetings and trying to assist with that process. But I just want the opposition to get on board with these projects rather than make suggestions that transmission and storage is key to these, transmission of renewables, but get on board and help us deliver these projects and provide all this renewable energy to our local communities and to reduce cost for our constituent. Companies as important as electricity and gas retailers go out of business. If they do go out of business, it creates a substantial volume of uncertainty, not among customers, not just among customers, whether they are residential or small businesses or big business owners, but also across the wider community. And it's fundamental to people's lifestyle to have these utilities available to them at all times. And this bill just doesn't help the end customer and consumer. It helps new companies taking over by making sure they have enough resources to handle the new customers. I wanted to refer to an article that was written, I think a couple of years ago now. I can't remember the exact date. It was actually an article in the ABC News, and it was a constituent of mine, Heather Westaway's home, which was unbearable in the winter. And Heather used to say, and I'll quote this, Heather Westaway's home used to be unbearable in winter. She would wear puffer jackets around the house, close all her blinds and rely on a 35-year-old power bank heater to keep her warm. She dreaded her power bills each quarter, becoming more expensive as the winter progressed. But more importantly, the 81-year-old was embarrassed about her cold home. It was so cold I felt embarrassed asking people to come over because I'd have to ask them to bring their coat and wear it inside my home, Miss Westaway said. And because of that, a lot of people didn't come and visit. Well, we went and visited Heather Westaway in her house with her conversion to the heat pumps, to the split system, air conditioning, and to other things that supported her, solar and things like that, and it's just been a great benefit to Heather. And many other households, I think there's 1,000 households between Melton and the Golden Valley that took on these programs. So this is our commitment to Victorians. I'm pleased that this bill has been introduced. I'm pleased the opposition are supportive of it, and I commend the bill to the House.
The member for